Hello everyone. Today we'll be taking a look at the strangest players to have their real faces licensed for use in FIFA 08. A bit of a random topic you might think, but let me explain why I've decided to cover it. Nowadays it's common for FIFA games, or should I say eafc now, to include lots of licensed player faces. But back in the old days of FIFA, most of the players looked like generic NPCs. Even though they were all real-life footballers, there would only be a handful of licensed player faces on the games, and they were usually the best and most famous players in the world at that time. Take FIFA 03 for instance, where the likes of David Beckham and Zinedine Zidane had their faces licensed for use in the game. Arguably the most random player to be licensed was the American player, Landon Donovan, which isn't really that random at all. Fast forward to FIFA 08 and EA started to license more real life players for the game. But not all of them seem to make a whole lot of sense. So join me as we take a look at the top 25 weirdest players to have their faces on FIFA 08. Starting from the least strange to the most strange. Number 25, Francesco Antonioli. Antonioli is an Italian goalkeeper who at the time played for Bologna. He's rated at just 64 overall. Antonioli was never capped for Italy at international level, but he did play over 650 senior games for various clubs during his career, in his home country. So I guess the licensing of Antonioli is validated by the sheer number of games he played, but still, not exactly a world beater according to his in-game stats. Number 24, Andreas Zikos. Zikos is a defensive midfielder contracted to AEK Athens on FIFA 08. His rating is 77, which is pretty respectable, but still not amazing. At international level, Zikos made 18 appearances for Greece, which again is okay, but also again not amazing. At club level, he made over 370 appearances, mainly for AEK Athens, but he also had a stint at Monaco from 2002 to 2006. A decent career all round and definitely not the strangest player we'll see on this list, which is why he's here at number 24. Number 23, Raul Bravo. If you're a football fan, this name is likely quite recognisable. This is due to the fact that Raul Bravo came through the ranks at Real Madrid, before making 77 appearances for the club. However, just because you've played a few games at Real Madrid, it doesn't necessarily mean you're any good. He only had one decent season for the Spanish side, before moving to Olympiacos, where his appearances were limited due to injuries. He has a rating of 74 overall, which is average, and in real life he made just 14 appearances for the Spanish national side. He did at least pick up 6 major titles in Greece with Olympiacos, even if he was out injured for half that time. In 2019, Bravo was arrested on charges relating to being part of a criminal organisation that was involved with match fixing. And a Serbian tabloid newspaper even went as far as alleging that Bravo had hired a contract killer to murder his former Olympiacos teammate, Darko Kovacevic. Number 22, Nuno Freshout. We're still in the midst of the players who are decently recognisable, but unremarkable, and Nuno Freshout certainly fits that criteria. He's recognisable to me at least because he was picked for Portugal's 2002 World Cup squad, where he played in their 4-0 win over Poland. That was actually Portugal's only win at the tournament. However, he only made 17 appearances for his country in total, and just over 300 games at club level, mainly for Portuguese teams. On FIFA 08 he's rated just 71 overall, at the age of 29, where he should theoretically be in his prime. Number 21, Sebastian Battaglia. Potentially the highest rated player we have on the list, Battaglia has an overall rating of 80 overall, which is respectable. Battaglia is an Argentine midfielder who plays for Boca Juniors on FIFA 08. This was actually his second stint at Boca, with one season at Villarreal from 2004 to 2005 in between. He only made 252 league appearances during his career and was capped by Argentina just 10 times, from 2003 to 2009. But he's also recognised as the most successful player in Boca Juniors history, with 18 trophies to his name. So maybe I'm being harsh here, but was he really worth being one of the few licensed footballers on the game? I'll let you decide. Number 20, Manuele Blasi. A 78 overall, Manuele Blasi was far from the worst rated player on our list today. But is he worthy of having his likeness licensed by EA? Blasi is an Italian midfielder who plays for Napoli. This was perhaps his best stint at a club during his career. At least he made more league appearances for Napoli than any other side. He did have a stint at Juventus, who signed him for €17.7 million in 2002. But Blasi went out on 3 loan spells during that period, and was also suspended for testing positive for steroids. After Juventus were relegated to Serie B as a result of a huge match-fixing scandal, Blasi was sold to Napoli for a fraction of the price Juve paid to sign him. The player made over 350 appearances in total, mostly in Italy, but only ever scored 1 league goal, and was only capped by Italy 8 times between 2004 and 5, although he was capped frequently at youth level. Number 19, Barry Opdam. Opdam is a defender from the Netherlands who plays for AZ Alkmaar and has a rating of 71 overall, which isn't great. He also starts on the bench as well, so he isn't even in the starting lineup for AZ. Barry Opdam made just 8 appearances for the Netherlands throughout his career, between 2005 and 6. However, he did make 330 league appearances for AZ, before playing for a couple more clubs prior to retiring. So, a club legend at home, even if he never got much recognition elsewhere. Number 18, Patrick Pauwe. Patrick Pauwe is a defensive midfielder who plays for Borussia Mönchengladbach on FIFA 08. Like Opdam, his overall rating is just 71, which is around 20 stat points shy of the best players in the game. Born in the Netherlands, Pauwe spent much of his career in his home country, most notably at Feyenoord, where he made over 200 appearances for the club. However, he only made 5 appearances for the Netherlands between 2000 and 2002, not exactly a mainstay in the national squad. Number 17, Melvin Brown. Melvin Brown is a centre-back who plays for Chiapas in his homeland of Mexico. He's rated at 71 overall, which again isn't really hitting the highs of the best rated players on the game. You might recognise the name of Melvin Brown as he was part of the Mexico squad at the 2002 World Cup. However, he never actually played a single game at the tournament, and would make just 10 appearances for the national team during his career. He did make over 300 league appearances though, mainly in Mexico, most of which came at the beginning of his career for Cruz Azul and Chiapas. Number 16, Kevin Hofland. Kevin Hofland is a Dutch defender who can be found playing for Feyenoord on FIFA 08. He has a rating of 79 overall when played in his favoured position of centre-back, making him one of the highest rated players on our list today. So why is he in this list? Well, Hofland only made around 230 league appearances during his career, which spanned from 1997 to 2012. He was capped at international level but only 7 times. and only 4 times at youth level. Sadly, his career was blighted by ankle injuries, the last of which forced him to retire while he was playing for AEK Larnaca, out in the famed footballing nation of Cyprus. Number 15, Derlei. Another potentially recognisable name here, as Derlei was part of the FC Porto squad that won the Champions League back in 2004. Now in 2008 he's playing at Sporting Lisbon, and he's rated at a mediocre 74 overall at the age of 31. Derlei made 327 league appearances during his career, mostly in his home nation of Brazil and also in Portugal, where he had the most success and scored 124 league goals, which isn't too shabby. However, he was never once capped at international level by Brazil, at youth level or senior level. Number 14, Sungkook Choi. Sungkook Choi is a forward who plays for Seongnam at the time that FIFA 08 was released, and is rated at just 67 overall. Pretty low for a player with a licensed face in the game. He only made 201 league appearances during his career, which is fairly low for a professional footballer, and almost all of those were in his home nation of South Korea. His licensing on the game could be down to his potential at this point, as he was only 24 at the time of the game's release, and he had drawn comparisons with Diego Maradona, earning him the nickname Little Maradona. He would also make 26 appearances for South Korea, scoring only 2 goals up until 2011, where his career was first blighted by an ankle injury, and then was subsequently banned for life by FIFA due to his role in a match-fixing scandal. Number 13, Federico Insua. At 79 overall, Federico Insua is another one of the most highly rated players on this list. So surely he's rated too high to count, right? Well, let's find out more. Insua is an Argentine attacking midfielder who plies his trade in Mexico for America. According to Wikipedia, he made over 500 club appearances during a career that spanned nearly 20 years, which is pretty impressive. However, he was also a bit of a journeyman, as Insua never really settled at any club, and spent most of his career playing outside Europe, mostly in his home Argentina. He did have 1 season at Borussia Mönchengladbach, but only scored 2 goals in 32 appearances. Also, he was capped just 14 times by Argentina, bagging a disappointing tally of 0 goals for a forward player as well. Number 12, Eduardo Costa. Eduardo Costa is a defensive midfielder who plays in his home nation of Brazil for Grêmio. He's rated just 73 overall here on FIFA 08. By the time his career ended in 2015, he played mostly for clubs in Brazil and also in France, where he had decent spells with Bordeaux and Marseille early on in his career, as well as a disappointing stint with Monaco, where the club was relegated from the top flight. Eduardo Costa did amass over 400 league appearances during his career, but like many others on this list, didn't really feature at international level, unlike many of the world's best. He was capped 7 times by Brazil between 2001 and 2002. Number 11, Alessandro Pierini. Alessandro Pierini is an Italian centre-back who can be found playing for Cordoba in Spain, and is rated at 72 overall, which, as we know, is not too great of a rating. At the time of the game's release, he was 34 years old, so surely his best years were behind him, right? Well, he did make over 400 league appearances in his career, mostly for Udinese at the beginning of his career, as well as Cordoba at the end. He also had stints at Fiorentina, Regina, Parma, and Racing Santander. He was capped at international level for Italy just 1 time in 2001. Number 10, Tom Soteres. Tom Soteres is a left-sided midfielder He plays for Genk in Belgium at the time of the game's release and has a rating of 71 overall, another pretty poor rating. He made more than 240 appearances over the whole of his career, which is quite a low tally for a professional footballer, and spent most of his time playing in the Netherlands and his homeland of Belgium. Despite being capped numerous times at youth level for Belgium, he only made 8 appearances for the senior squad, scoring just once. So Theus finished his career at SC Hooggarden Outgarden, a team apparently so low in the Dutch football pyramid that I couldn't even find out what league they play in. Number 9, Jeremy Brechet. Getting steadily more and more obscure now, we find ourselves discussing Jeremy Brechet, who plays for Sochaux Montbéliard in France at the time of the game's release. He's a centre-back who's rated 74 overall, so not the worst, but definitely not the best either. His career started out brightly, making over 100 appearances for Lyon. However, after being bought by Inter Milan, he only made 9 appearances in Serie A, partly due to injury, and then his playing career seemingly fizzled out after that, with Brechet playing in his homeland of France for much of the remainder of his career. He was capped by France at international level, but just 3 times, between 2001 and 2003. Number 8, Didier Domi. At first glance, this might be a surprising inclusion, as the name Didier Domi might ring a bell for some of you. Maybe it's just the alliteration, or perhaps it's because he played for Newcastle United at one point in time. For FIFA 08, however, he's playing at Olympiacos as a left-back, with a rating of only 71 overall, where he fought for a starting spot with Raul Bravo, who we saw earlier in the video. Sadly, that typifies Domi's career really, as wherever he went he struggled to hold down a regular spot in the starting 11, and made fewer than 300 appearances throughout his career. Despite stints at the likes of Paris Saint-Germain and Newcastle, Domi was never capped by France at youth level or at full international level either. Number 7, Markus Schrott. Markus Schrott is a German striker who plays for 1860 Munich in the German second division on FIFA 08, and is rated 74 overall, which is pretty average. Schrott spent the majority of his playing career at 1860 Munich, but was never an overly prolific forward, scoring just 87 league goals in 371 league appearances throughout his career. Although he earned 20 caps at under 21 level for Germany, he only ever played at full international level for Germany B, and never scored a full international cap. He even played 2 matches for Team 2006, which was a group of German players being watched for possible selection in the 2006 World Cup, but he was still not picked for the national team. Schrott's first stint at 1860 Munich ended in 2004, then spending 3 seasons at Nuremberg before returning to 1860 Munich. However, during this second period at the club, he didn't make a single appearance in the whole 2 years he was there for. Number 6, Kaba Diawara. At 68 overall, Kaba Diawara is one of the lowest rated players on our list today. He is a striker who plays for Turkish side Gaziantepspor on FIFA 08, although he was born in France and played international football for a different country. Diawara did have several stints at decent clubs, including Arsenal, where he scored no goals in 12 league appearances, Marseille, where he scored no goals in 15 league appearances, and Paris Saint-Germain, where he scored no goals in 14 league appearances. Overall, he scored just 65 goals in 341 league appearances in his career. Not a great return for a forward, although he did find the net 8 times in 21 appearances for the footballing nation of Guinea. Number 5, Habib Bamogo. Habib Bamogo is a French forward who plays for Nice on FIFA 08. He's rated 73 overall, which isn't the worst we've ever seen, but definitely not the best either. Despite racking up over 100 appearances for Montpellier early on in his career, Bamogo went on to appear for several other French clubs before ending up at Doncaster Rovers when he was almost 30, before 2 final stints in Bulgaria and Indonesia. Overall, he played 350 league games and scored just 50 goals. That's 300 games without finding the net. Internationally, he was never capped by France, but did represent the footballing giants Burkina Faso, and played just 6 times, scoring 1 goal. Number 4. Mimoun Azawag. Mimoun Azawag, or perhaps it's Azawa, is a Moroccan-born German attacking midfielder who plays for FC Schalke 04 on FIFA 08. He's another player that holds a pretty average rating, just 74 overall. During his career, he amassed a paltry 231 appearances, scoring 28 goals for the likes of Mainz, Schalke and Bochum. In fact, he spent his entire playing career in Germany, ending up with 5th division side SE Hessen Dreieck in 2015. At international level, he played 6 times for Germany at under 21 level, but never got called up to the national side. In 2009, he declared that he would now play for Morocco rather than Germany, but didn't get called up by Morocco either. Number 3. Jamie Peters. Now, even if you're a fan of English football, I doubt you'll be too familiar with the name of Jamie Peters. Peters can be found playing for Ipswich Town on FIFA 08, where he played between 2005 and 2012, which included 3 loan spells at other English clubs. He has a rating of just 62 overall, but he is only 20 years old on the game and has a potential of 77 overall. By the end of his career, Peters had played just 125 times, scoring 5 goals, and 99 of those appearances were for Ipswich. He was released by the Tractor Boys in 2012, when Peters was 25 years old, and went on trial first at Yeovil Town and then at Vancouver Whitecaps. Both clubs declined to offer him a contract, and that's where Peters' career ended, until in 2021, where he began playing for a semi-pro team in Canada. Despite his lack of success at club level, Peters was capped 26 times by Canada, scoring just 1 goal. Number 2. Jonathan Bourgeau. From one obscure Canadian international to another, Jonathan Bourgeau is a midfielder who plays for FC St. Pauli in Germany. He was only 18 years old at the time of the game's release, but was rated just 51 overall, with a potential rating of just 72. Hardly a world beater. He began his career at St. Pauli, first in their B team, before making 11 appearances for the first team, and also spending a season out on loan. After that, he transferred to SC Prussian Munster, and that's where his professional career ended in 2012, when he was just 24. He did make 10 appearances for Canada, but owing to his position as a defensive midfielder, he scored no international goals. Okay, now we come to the number 1 spot. Who is the most obscure player to have their real-life face licensed for use in FIFA 08? And that honour goes to Marco Andreoli. Andreoli is an Italian centre-back who plays for Roma. Sounds good, right? Well, he is just 21 years old, but he's rated at 62 overall, and has a potential rating of just 74, which isn't great. He started his career at Inter Milan actually, where he made 7 appearances in 2 years before moving to Roma, where he made 8 appearances in 3 years, although he did go out on loan twice in that time. He then spent several years switching between Chievo and Inter Milan again. He did seem to get a decent run of games at Chievo, but during one of his stints at Inter from 2013 to 2017, he made a total of 16 appearances in 4 years. Randomly, he actually captained Inter in a 3-1 home win over Genoa in one of those 16 appearances. His career ultimately fizzled out with 2 seasons at Cagliari, before one final half a season at Chievo again. Throughout his career, he made fewer than 200 league appearances in total. In fairness to Andreoli, he did rack up more than 30 appearances for Italy at youth level, but needless to say, was never called up to the senior international team. A worthy winner of the top spot on our list, I think. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks as always for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.